Kajsa Tylen. I was riding my bike on December 31st, 2016. It was a cold morning, and I stopped to take some photos of the dozens of people who had come out to see me. This was it. This was the end of a year that had brought so much joy as well as misery, a year in which I had learned more about myself and my limits than ever before. I had ridden 52,000 kilometers in the last 365 days. If you're not sure exactly how far that is, the circumference of the Earth is 40,000 kilometers. I rode a little bit further than that. And I'm not even a cyclist, or at least not the kind that you might think I am. You probably think that I've had this massive cycling career, but at the point at which I decided to take this on, I had only ridden a bike for 2 years. To be honest, I'm an average cyclist, certainly not a fast one. But what I lack in talent, I make up for in determination. My name is Kajsa Tylen. Last year, I set a new Guinness World Record for the furthest distance cycled in a year by a woman. I'm going to talk to you today about why I think you should be setting goals that are, quite frankly, out of your reach. Goals so big that you actually have to grow into the person to achieve them. Because I believe that we're all capable of so much more than we think, both physically and mentally. Now, the first question you're probably thinking is, why? Why would somebody do something so ridiculous? Well, I've spent a lot of hours on the bike contemplating just that, and have come to the conclusion that it's because I'm lazy. Now, you probably wouldn't describe me as that, considering what I've just told you, but I am. I'm inherently lazy. Or rather, I'm always taking the easy option. So I'm one of those people that will carry as many shopping bags from the car in one go that I can handle, even though there's a risk of me dropping them all, just so that I don't have to go back out to the car. When I was a kid, my idea of tidying my bedroom was just closing the door. And my teachers would always have the same feedback for me at school. Could try harder. To be honest, it's rubbish being lazy. But once I realized I was, and that could change, then it really opened my eyes. Everyone should at least go some way to fulfilling their potential. And I knew deep down that I wasn't fulfilling mine. I'd come up with reasons not to get fit. Well, excuses, really. Too many parties to go to, mainly. But I would also judge people who are fit and healthy and assume that they couldn't be having any fun. If only I knew then what real achievement actually felt like. Then I found something that I enjoyed exercise-wise and eventually half-heartedly took up running. So what was the trigger that led me to leave laziness behind and start pushing my limits? To be honest, I don't really know. There was just some small switch that flicked in my brain. Or maybe there was a trigger and I just don't remember what it was. Maybe it was a gradual thing. But I knew I had to do something. And the first thing, obviously, was to throw myself off a bridge. Now, I am terrified of heights. But there I was, standing on a bridge over the Corinth Canal, you know it well maybe, and about to plummet to my death. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. No, not a chance. Then the bungee guy, I think that was his official job title, said something to me that would change my life forever. Look at the horizon, he said. Blank your mind for 1 second, and in that 1 second, fall forward past the point of no return. It's all it takes. Took a deep breath. 5, 4, 3, blank mind, fall forward. Simple when you think about it. So that's what I did. My first thought was, of course, ah! But I survived. Did everyone wake up? Yeah. Did I enjoy it? No. At least not the first time. I've done it twice again since then. But why am I telling you about my bungee? What does this have to do with cycling? Not much. It was just a huge life lesson. I learned that I could do something that I really wanted to do but was absolutely terrified of. I learned that I was more than just my fears. Now, some people, they do one great thing, but it doesn't change them as a person. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. The bungee could have been that one thing, but I saw it as an opportunity to form a pattern of positive behavior rather than just seeing it as my end goal. What it made me do was realize what my mind was capable of and that I could use the momentum of that bungee jump for the next challenge. I mentioned running previously. I'd attempted a half marathon without much training and ended up staggering round. With a full marathon, that wouldn't have been possible. And besides, I didn't want to just stagger around, I wanted to run. And I knew that if I didn't train for it, I would never be able to do that. So I got myself a training plan, and with that, completed my first marathon without walking. It became clear that to achieve what I wanted to achieve, and not some lesser version of it, I would have to work hard, consistently. After the marathon, and a hike up Kilimanjaro, I took up triathlon, because I was getting bored with just cycling. And I was getting bored with just running, and I discovered cycling. My relationship with the bike was not exactly plain sailing. My body, specifically my backside, was not happy about my newfound hobby. But I persevered and eventually built up enough muscle and stamina to be fairly comfortable on the bike, and I started doing longer distances. Then I read about an incredible woman called Billy Fleming, who in 1938 rode nearly 48,000 kilometers in 1 year to claim a world record. Wouldn't it be cool to get in the record books? I thought. A seed of an idea to beat that record had been planted, and I knew that Billy was a woman just like me with no racing background, and if she could do it, why couldn't I? There would be no easy ways out for an entire year. I had to ride over 50,000 kilometers to claim that record, and there was no way around it. So I came up with a list of reasons in my head not to do it. And I had to figure out, how do I get those reasons off my list? Do I have to learn something new? If so, what was it? And how do I learn it? And really, I didn't know if I could actually do this. There were so many what ifs. What if I couldn't handle the weather that England would throw at me? What if I couldn't handle the pain, the loneliness, the boredom? What if I failed? That was the biggest one. What if I failed? And I thought to myself, well, what is failure anyway? Nobody who's achieved anything great has done so without failing. The inventor Thomas Edison summed it up brilliantly. I haven't failed, he said. I've simply found 10,000 ways that won't work. The first thing we need to do is to stop judging each other on our perceived failures. If we see others as failing rather than learning, then we'll believe that's how others see us. And really, anyone who sees life that negatively are the ones who need to start doing and failing. If you're sitting on the couch because you're too afraid of failure to even try, then you're not allowed to tell me, or anyone else for that matter, that we're failing. I realized that I was the only one who could define failure in this. If I did my very best, then I couldn't fail. If my best was not enough, then so be it. If I got injured and I couldn't carry on, then so be it. But one thing I did know, I wouldn't quit. And besides, what if I didn't fail? What would I get? As it turns out, a lifetime of lessons, some amazing new friends, and a Guinness World Record to put on the wall. And of course, the knowledge that I could laugh in the face of laziness, which made it worth it. So I had to learn a hell of a lot just to get to the start line, and I had to train, and I had to plan. And so began my year, and those life lessons began straight away. On the third day, I was so cold and miserable that I spent the entire day crying, and I never wanted to experience that again. So on that day, I learned a few things about clothing choices. I learned that misery is only temporary, and most importantly, I learned through failure. And there were other tough times too, not just the cold. There was the boiling heat of the summer, the winds, the rain, the leg fatigue, the saddle sores, Brexit. For each of these obstacles, I had to find a way through. I could have quit, but that became too hard. I'd spent too much time and energy in planning this and making it happen. The perceived easy option just wasn't the easy option anymore. And don't forget, I'm lazy. So I had to trick myself to do stuff. For example, I know that I can quite easily talk myself out of doing something. So I'll tell everyone that I'm going to do it. Because I also know that I don't like to break a promise. If I say I'm going to do something, then I'll generally do it. I also know that if I sit down on the sofa at the end of the day, I have a very hard time getting up. So I've taught myself to exercise in the mornings and to push it even further, leave the right clothes right next to the bed the night before so that I can't come up with some clothes-related excuse in the morning. It's like a never-ending argument with myself. Yeah, but it might rain. So wear a cap and a raincoat. I'm exhausted from whatever ridiculous reason. Yes, but you know that you get energized by going out. An entire year of that, and it became like second nature. And during my year, I would often return to that bungee second. Blank your mind for 1 second. I taught myself to blank my mind for many, 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 many seconds and just kept going. I spent 35 years wasting my potential. Can anyone in this room honestly say that they're as fit as they could be? Perhaps you're not active at all. Walking to the shop is hard work. In that case, walking 5 kilometers might seem absolutely daunting. But if others can, then you can too. The greatness of a goal is not defined by anyone other than yourself. Only you know how big your goal should be. And don't be afraid of that goal. If someone tells you can't do it, including yourself, then find someone who tells you can, and trust them. I became the person I needed to become in order to succeed. To steal a quote, I set myself a goal so big that I could only achieve it by growing into the person who could. I believe that anyone can do the same. If you know deep down that you're not fulfilling your own potential, do something about it. Set yourself a goal and grow into the person who achieves it, whatever it takes. Ευχαριστούμε.